It's a vexing question, to be sure, right? But one we all have to answer. Thank you for joining me here on NewsNation. I am Chris Cuomo. We're going to discuss the large and varied response to my position that you just heard a piece of last night. You can watch it in one of the commercials. It's on my Instagram page. It's everywhere right now. That the murder of 6 Israeli hostages matters, should get more attention in the media, from our leaders, and more importantly, it should get action to end the captivity and the violence. But this is also my last show before the debate next week. Christina and I are taking our son Mario to college. He's just starting college, and obviously that comes first, right? So Dusty lined up some big shots to talk about what should matter when these two finally meet for the first and maybe only debate. And we have some really interesting context to do it tonight. We have the Israeli situation, obviously, and the dead hostages, and the relative quiet from both camps, right? Trump just blamed Harris for it, right? And Harris says, yeah, we got to get a better deal. And then Biden said, Bibi's not doing enough. What is the state of play? How will that manifest in the election, specifically in the debate? We have controversy around who actually has plans to do what they promise. Have you checked out Kamala Harris's website? You should. Why? For what's not there, not what is there. And then, did you see the news? A DOJ indictment was unsealed today, alleging some right-wing digital figures with followings in the millions were allegedly, this is just an indictment, you can indict a ham sandwich, paid millions by Russia to spread disinformation and help the interests of one Donald John Trump. Now, at least one of them, who I know a little bit, says they are not Russian disinformation agents. They, too, were scammed by Russian actors. Where is the truth? We'll see who has proof. But it adds a layer to the election. Oh, and another piece of news today, probably doesn't really matter. You know, why? Not enough dead. Not enough dead for this story to really resonate. A kid, same age as Christina and my youngest, who was totally pumped for her first day of high school today, this kid was pumped for something else. 14 years old, went to his school with a gun and killed 4 people, injured at least 9 others. Now, on the right, you're hearing, oh, here we go again. Here we go. There are all these gang shootings. There's all this gunplay and crime in the inner cities. But the left doesn't care about that, only these. Well, it is a distinction with a difference, no? Crime on the streets sucks and is because of poor opportunities and poor planning and poor family structure and poor education and a lot of other things. But it's a reality. We've been dealing with it for a long time. But when it happens in schools, with kids, young kids, the only place that they're supposed to be, the place that they're supposed to be most safe, isn't that different than street crime and gang crime to you? But it doesn't really matter where mass shootings occur, does it? Nothing will be done. Or will there be something done? Kamala Harris, when she ran for president last time, in one of the early debates, right, because she didn't even make it to the first primary, she debated this problem with our first big name guest. And she complimented him for how he had dealt with a massive, ugly shooting at a mall in El Paso, Texas. And I know because I was there and I watched this man in action. And he operated well for that community. And his name is Beto O'Rourke. And I have him here to talk about the state of play and what he expects on Tuesday and why he's backing Kamala Harris. Beto, it is good to see you. And in the context of what we saw today with yet another mass shooting in a school, the one that you were at in El Paso was not at a school, but it destroyed that community for a while all the same. And I appreciate you being here. So let's start with that issue, and we'll back into these other ones and how they manifest in the debate. What do you believe Kamala Harris will suggest as a solution to the scourge of school shootings?
I think a real opportunity for her, a real gift that she can bring to the table is bringing people together on might seem like an intractable unsolvable issue, gun violence in America. You just really don't see anything like this in any other country. And so you either conclude that we are fated to this for the rest of our future, and we just tell our kids, I've got a 13-year-old at home, a little bit younger than your youngest, and just say, hey, I'm sorry, guy, there's just nothing we can do. Or we say, look, we're going to find a way to bring Democrats and Republicans together. Maybe we can't do everything that either side wants, but is there some common ground? And I'll tell you, in traveling Texas and listening to people who, Chris, never in a million years will vote for me, I find common ground. Could we get a universal background check, for example? We don't have that in Texas. I don't know that they have it in Georgia. Can we get a red flag law so that if some kid or an adult, for that matter, is exhibiting signs of self-harm or wants to harm someone else? You know, the school shooter in Uvalde, before he ever walked into Robb Elementary, his friends called him the school shooter. There's no red flag law in Texas. There's no opportunity for parents of a disturbed child like that to say, hey, I need some help here. We need to get these guns out of the house. Same thing happened in the El Paso shooting. And by the way, this community is forever grateful to you for being here and shining a spotlight on the humanity that they tried to take away from us. And instead, I think you were able to show a resilient, strong community that has fought back. But the gunman in that case, his mom called the cops in Allen, Texas, and says, my son ordered an AK-47, have no idea what he wants with it. And the cop said, I'm sorry, good luck, you're on your own. There's nothing we can do about it. So there are common sense solutions. It won't solve every instance of gun violence. Let's be clear about that. But it will reduce the number of avoidable deaths, perhaps like the one that we saw today in Atlanta.
So why on the table of potential solutions isn't paying for armed protection in every school in America?
No, that might be the right solution in some communities. In Texas, we have a program where you're able to do that on a given school campus. You have to go through, background checks, and there's a special process to do that. In some communities, some school districts have elected to do that. And I don't begrudge that. That might be the right solution. Those people have decided for themselves. But I don't know that a piecemeal approach is going to solve a problem that takes tens of thousands of our fellow Americans from us every single year. And I know that there are Republicans, there are gun owners, there are folks who are absolutely fiercely protective of the Second Amendment who will acknowledge that much, who will say, hey, I don't want my kids going to school knowing that they may not come home at the end of the day. I'm not going to accept this as our permanent future. I want change. But we haven't had perhaps the political will or the right leadership that can bring people together to do something like this. There will be no way, at least as I look at the math in Congress, that a Democratic administration can run roughshod over a Republican, even a Republican minority, to get this done.
No way.
You're going to have to find consensus. And I think that is something that Kamala Harris is trying to exhibit on the campaign trail, bringing people together, making sure that everyone knows that she will serve everyone as president.
I'm just saying, if you're going to deal with schools, you want to keep guns out of the hands of some people, but they're going to say you need guns in the hands of certain other people who are there to protect the kids. Let's move to a different issue. The idea of Russian disinformation, look, if I were advising the Democrats, I'd be like, stay away from it. It did not work out well for you last time. You greatly overshot the target. But this report that's out now about a DOJ indictment, should this matter to Harris in the campaign, that supposedly Russia was spreading around money on some right-wing big shots on digital media, getting them to say things that they liked having said about Trump and messing with our dialogue. Should that matter to Harris at the debate?
It should matter to all of us. I mean, this democracy, 248 years into the experiment, there's no guarantee that we get a 249th or another 248 going forward. And for us to succeed, we need an informed electorate. We need to be able to rely on one another. That's why I'm on your program right now. Here's where you hold people like me accountable, and your viewers can make informed decisions after the conversation. knowing that Russia is trying to sway this election and that they're pumping millions of dollars into extremist right-wing commentators on YouTube, that's helpful information for us to know. But I think it should encourage the Kamala Harris campaign to redouble their efforts to meet voters where they are across this country. I mean, there's no substitute. There's no surrogate for being in front of people, making your case, answering questions, and also having people out there in every state, including Texas, which I think is increasingly a battleground, making the case as well. Certainly that's what we're trying to do here in Texas.
I mean, you made it a little bit of a battleground, Beto, but I don't know that Harris is going to be able to. No disrespect. I'm just saying that place always looks like it could be one thing, but it's always something very different when it gets to the polls. Look, you love making the case. Some people do, some people don't. Two issues. One, she's literally done one interview. I thought she was going to do a bunch of them after that. She hasn't. And that's odd because I always found her, at worst, glib, but certainly willing to talk and engage. But she's only done the one interview. You go to her website, there are no plans on the website, Beto. What is going on here with making the case to the voters? Or is it just Trump sucks?
No, I don't think it's just that. I mean, today she announced a new effort to make it easier to start a small business, to make sure that the first $50,000 of your startup costs are refundable. She wants to encourage entrepreneurship. That's a very solid, detailed plan. Her effort to increase
Beto, that's an idea. That's an idea, Beto. If you were debating her, you'd say, how are you going to pay for it? Which businesses? What do you expect it to return on that investment? That's a plan. You got to pay for it. You got to tell me what it's going to do. I haven't heard that with any of her things, and there's literally nothing on the website. Now, look, I know what you can say. Trump's the same thing. He's got plans. I'm not saying that he's going to follow them or even knows that they're there, but they're on the website. And she doesn't have them, Beto. I don't get it, and I don't get not doing interviews. Continue.
Yeah, you're right about that. On Trump's side, I mean, you have incredibly detailed plans, including Project 2025, a nationwide abortion ban, and other extreme measures. I was thinking about this because I actually anticipated you asking me this question today. Before the 1965 swearing in of LBJ, how detailed was he on the voting rights plan or Medicare or Medicaid? Before the 2009 swearing in of Barack Obama, I mean, how much detail did he give us on the Affordable Care Act that would ultimately be passed and signed into law during his administration? I think the idea is important. Defining the goal is essential, but then realizing that you're going to have to bring members of Congress from both parties together to work out the details. I think that's part of leadership as well. But to your point, Chris, which I think is a good one, this upcoming debate is going to be a great opportunity for those moderators to ask her and to ask Donald Trump about the level of specificity on how are you going to pay for this? What is it going to do to our deficit and to our debt? How do you address inflation when you are bringing more government money into the economy? I'm not saying that that's a bad idea, but that's certainly a concern as we come off of historic inflation in the previous years. Come off of it because the Biden-Harris administration, I think, have done a great job at bringing inflationary pressure down and getting prices under control. But I think that's something on people's minds, and it's something that she should answer, whether it's at the debate, whether it's in an interview with you or some other reporter. I think people want to know that. But let's also remember, she literally just started this campaign. It's been a matter of weeks on the road. And I'm actually
now it's been months.
What she has done so far.
She's got 2 months under her belt. I was with you, Beto. I was with you in the beginning. I was saying, I don't care about when she does an interview. They got a lot bigger problems. Now it looks suspicious to me, especially with someone who I found pretty competent on the hustings. And it doesn't have to be with me. I wouldn't want to do an interview with me either. I'm a pain in the ass. But what I'm saying is, if she should be out there and she should be making the message. Last issue to you is the Middle East. So there's a lot of hyper-registration in some areas that matter, mostly among women. There's also a very thin slice of undecided in this race, certainly under 20% at this point, overweighted to independents. Now, I contextualize it that way because how does she deal with the Middle East issue when she has played to the left flank of your party on that issue, but independents are not where the left flank of your party is on that issue, and that issue matters. How does she articulate the position in the debate when he says, you got the hostages killed because you're too soft and you didn't do enough to help Israel and you didn't do enough to put down Hamas? This is on you.
You know, I really listened to what she had to say at the convention, and in her acceptance speech, she addressed this issue squarely. As you remember, the first thing she said is that something to the effect of Israel will have no stronger, no fiercer ally than the United States when I am president of this country. And, that was a full stop sentence. She also acknowledged the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people to self-determination and ultimately a state of their own. She got more cheers for that. And she wants to end this war. And I think in this war in a way that I hope you would agree would be a just way to end that war. Every single one of these hostages returned. An end to Hamas as any kind of governing authority in Gaza or anywhere for the Palestinian people. They have been a scourge for the Palestinian people, and certainly they have been a deadly opponent, a terrorist organization against the people of Israel. There can be no future with Hamas, period. But then the United States has an incredibly important role, I think, to play in building the peace that follows this war, to ensure that Israel is never again attacked in such a barbaric, cowardly way, to ensure that Palestinian people understand that they have a future that includes a state of their own. And she has an important role as potentially the future president of the United States in bringing this to pass. I think there's a way to talk about that and also shine a light on, again, the humanity of this situation. I watched your program last night, and I couldn't agree more strongly with what you said about Hirsch and his family, and watching the video of you visiting with them, as you did with victims here in El Paso after the massacre in our community. I think the more we ground ourselves in our fellow human beings whose lives are being needlessly sacrificed right now, I think the greater urgency we will feel towards getting towards a solution. And again, I think the United States can play an absolutely indispensable role in that. And Kamala Harris is prepared to lead that.
Well, if she articulates it the way you do, Beto, she'll be in good shape. We'll see if she can do it. I appreciate you being here, Beto O'Rourke. You're always welcome. You always have an open invitation. I know you're very busy, but whenever you want to make the case, we're always a phone call away. Besides, our outfits match. We were made to be on TV together. Beto, thank you very much.
Thank you,
4 minutes and 5 seconds. Take care. Coming up, Bill O'Reilly has a little bit of a dire expectation. He says Trump better be on his game at the debate or else, all caps, or else. Bad things, brother. Why? Why is it so important? And what does he think Trump can do with Harris in that debate? The big man, next. All right, he's back from vacation. Word is he got a little work done in his face. No, doesn't look like it. Bill O'Reilly joins us right now. It's good to have you back, big man. We missed you.
You know, I was impressed with your interview with Mr. O'Rourke when you said, I don't know why anybody would do an interview with me. I'm a pain in the butt. And that was a very truthful statement, Cuomo, and it's a good way to start the fall season off. Yeah.
You know, I got to tell you something. Beto, you can plus minus him all day, but I believe that some of these guys are a reminder of what Democrats didn't get. I mean, I'm not saying that Harris wouldn't have been the person to come out of the field, but if they had held Biden to his word that he was a one-term guy, they got some good people that can make the case. You may like what they say, you may not, but Shapiro and Whitmer and this guy, I mean, it would have been nice if there was a process. But here we are. They're heading into their debate on Tuesday. All hype aside, does this debate matter and why?
Of course. When Mr. O'Rourke said that Kamala Harris needs to be held to some specificity, word of the day, I went, well, how's that going to happen? So the two moderators, the ABC people, Muir and Lindsay Davis, they're going to ask questions that everybody knows are coming, including Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. And then Donald Trump and Kamala Harris will have rehearsed answers. And that's what's going to happen. And then the follow-up question is always the key, but they'll have rehearsed answer for the follow-up question. You're not going to get any specificity. So in order to define Kamala Harris, because she's not going to define herself, she had plenty of time to do that. She's not going to do it. All right, 2 months left before the vote. Donald Trump has to do that during the debate because the press isn't going to do it. They're rooting for the vice president. So who else is going to do it? It's only Trump. He's the only person in the world that can define Kamala Harris. Here's how you do it, Cuomo. Are you ready? Do you want to write a little of this down? Because this is
Hold on.
Brilliance coming your way. Okay?
Go ahead.
Here's how you do it. So whatever question is asked to Donald Trump, he is polite, by the way, and says, I will answer that question in a moment, but I am so confused tonight standing on this debate stage. And there are a few things that I would like to know, David or Lindsay, that I hope you ask. Let's start with when I left office, inflation was 1.4%. 1 year later, under Biden-Harris, it was 9%. How did that happen? And he can only do that one or two times.
You're not allowed to ask questions.
He's making a statement. He's not asking a question. He's wondering about it. You see what I'm talking about?
Oh, he's musing.
Not turning
he's musing.
His body. Excellent. He's musing.
He's musing.
About why the Biden, Kamala Harris administration opened the border, which led to colossal problems that are haunting the country. Why would you do that? I'm musing. I'm not asking. But maybe you might, David and Lindsay, maybe you, because you're allowed, might ask that question. That's what Trump has to do. If he does that, the whole thing turns around. It's simple. He doesn't have to attack personally. He doesn't have to use hyperbole. Very simple, 15-second questions. There you are.
And do you really believe that if he doesn't do that and it goes south and she's on her game and he isn't, you really believe that it can be a determining factor if he has a bad night?
Absolutely. I had John McLaughlin, the internal pollster for Trump, on the No Spin News this week. And McLaughlin's an honest man. I can't get the Democrat internal polling, but McLaughlin will come on. I say, hey, tell me really what's going on there. All right, not the USA Today poll or all of these. What's really happening? What are you telling the guy who's paying you, Donald Trump? And McLaughlin said very simply, I'm telling him he's ahead by maybe 1 point. Now, when you're ahead by 1 point, okay, anything could happen. And my upcoming book, which will be out the same night as the debate, Confronting the Presidents, basically says that if you go into the last 2 months, anybody, George Washington didn't have to worry about it, but every president after George Washington did. If you go in, all right, neck and neck, then no one can predict it. So Trump has to pull away. And the only vehicle that can do that is the debate. Because nobody's listening to these political ads. You're talking to the choir here. All right? And the Democrats are just turning them off. You've got to
Are you giving him too high a bar?
That are I'm not.
He didn't win the popular vote the first time he won. I know, but I'm saying if he has to win the popular vote to win, I mean, that's a high, but he didn't do that the last two times he ran.
Who said he has to win the popular vote? I didn't mention that.
I thought you were saying I thought you said that the guy said he's only up one. Right. I thought you said the pollster said he's up one and he has to pull away. I thought you were talking about the popular vote.
He's got to be up. Look, if Donald Trump can define Kamala Harris, because I believe she's the third weakest presidential candidate in history running for a major political party. The weakest was McClellan, General McClellan, against Abraham Lincoln in 1864. And again, you'll see this in Confronting the Presidents. McClellan was a racist. He was awful. He was the weakest. Warren Harding, who won, was the second weakest. The man couldn't get out of the front door. I mean, that's how dumb he was. It was frightening, but he won.
Where do you put Trump?
Okay. Harris, I don't put him anywhere because he has 4 years. Okay, he's already been there for 4 years. And alert Americans can make a decision on his term. So it's different because we don't know what Kamala Harris stands for. I don't even know if she understands the problems, Cuomo. I don't understand. Look, when Beto O'Rourke comes on and says, oh, we need to have a ceasefire, and then 10 seconds later goes, and we need to destroy Hamas, the logical question is, you're never going to get a ceasefire if destroying Hamas is in the equation, right? So does Kamala Harris understand?
Well, you'll get a
that?
ceasefire, but you won't get peace.
Does she understand?
Yeah, look, I mean, that's why she's got to do more interviews.
Well, the interviews she can manipulate and dodge. What she can't manipulate and dodge is statements of fact. And here is another weakness of Donald Trump. He too often exaggerates. He too often goes into the world of The Apprentice and tries to entertain. You can have 10 facts there and say, you know, David, you know, Lindsay, I'm curious as an American what the vice president would say when you ask this. Now, you're putting the moderators on the spot, okay? You see what I'm talking? Now, admit it, Cuomo. This is a brilliant strategy. Admit it to America.
It's a brilliant strategy.
Right now, okay?
I admit it to America.
Thank you.
All of you on NewsNation watching right now.
Okay, I know you're
Bill
running.
O'Reilly
I know you're
just
running
gave
out of time.
Donald Trump a great idea. Go ahead.
I know you're running out of time, but I got a letter from a guy who's mad at me and says, "Why do you call Cuomo Cuomo? Call him Chris." And I wrote back very politely. I said, "It's a New York thing." Okay? When you're raised in New York, you either have a nickname like Binky or the Bug something, or you them by their last names. Nobody in the neighborhood of Levittown or Queens, where you grew up, goes, "Hello, Seymour, how are you?" Never happens, all right? You're identified by your last name. I'm sorry I crushed the guy's spirit, but that's why I call Cuomo, Cuomo.
Well, look, you and I live in the same place out here, and people see us together, and people say it all the time. And the truth is, I don't care what you call me. I love being with you. I love having you on the show. And you have some good ideas. It'll be great to see. I'm not back. You know, Bill also helps me kind of like, Big Brother fashion. And we're taking Mario to Scotland. And Bill knows the place well. We're going tomorrow night, and it is such a mixed deal. Boy, I'm so happy for him, and I love to see how your son developed.
You
but
calm
I'm going to
down.
miss him, Bill. Oh, I'm going to miss him.
Right. You calm down, and I am proud of Mario because he's an adventurer. And I gave this advice to my son when he went to college. I said, there are going to be things that you are going to be upset with. There are going to be bad days, all right? Before you react to any of those bad things, you call me, because I've been through it. And it worked great. It provided a security blanket. It provided a spirit. And then I said to my son, I'm very proud of you and all you've accomplished. And Mario will do very, very well. I don't know him that well. I know he's much smarter than you are. And, that's a good thing. And he's better looking than you as well. Yeah.
That's for sure. He gets paid for how he looks. That's how good looking he is. Bill O'Reilly, thank you for the advice. Thank you for the analysis, as always. Confronting the Presidents is coming out. I have 2 copies, neither signed, so they're not as valuable if something happens to Bill. You can go to BillO'Reilly.com. You will find all you want and more there. Thank you, big man. I'll talk to you when I'm back. 4 minutes and 30 seconds. We're going to take a break. Yes, sir. Elections, millions being spent to win over the American worker. But who's really talking about who the workers are? Have you heard the word trades, artisans come from Kamala Harris or Donald Trump? What workers do we need more than them? We're opportunities are the most. Who knows? Mike Rowe knows. Dirty Jobs host. He's here next to tell you what matters. Handsome. Working class. That means in this country, you're probably a paycheck and a half away from being in real crisis. Nearly 2/3 of the electorate are in that situation. Trump, Harris, trying to say they're pro-worker, but what are they really talking about? Are they really addressing the big elephant in the room? I say no. On Monday, Trump posted a Labor Day message on Twitter saying he will create an environment that ensures all workers and businesses have the opportunity to prosper and achieve their American dream. How? Where's the word trades? Where's the artisan class? Harris spent Labor Day at a union hall in Detroit talking about her plan to build an economy that works for all working people. Great. There are no plans on the website. How? You know they're just saying it. Let's talk to Mike Rowe. You know why? He knows, he cares, he understands. He is the host of Dirty Jobs, but so much more. Creator of Mike Rowe Works Foundation, gives $1 million in scholarships at least every year to people getting started in the trades. It is good to see you, my handsome big brother.
Don't make it weird, Chris Cuomo. Don't make it weird.
Oh, it's too late. It was weird as soon as I woke up. The idea that they haven't even said the word trades. I have not heard. I didn't hear it the whole convention. I didn't hear it. And tell people why they should.
Well, look, it's the biggest paintbrush in the world, and they're both painting with it very, 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 very broadly. It's almost ludicrous to talk about the working class the way we talk about Americans because, well, we all work, and to inject class into working is the beginning of the end, in my estimation. It's right up there with taking the arts out of the vocational arts. You start messing with the language and you start talking in big generalities, and pretty soon, well, obviously, you're trying to get elected. These guys are talking to massive groups of people, but I don't know if it's landing, Chris, honestly. I mean, I watch as a viewer and a concerned citizen, but also, you're right, I do care. We're 16 years into my foundation now. We've got $12 million in work ethic scholarships awarded. Of the 2,000 people we've helped, a big chunk of them are working in unions, but a bigger chunk aren't. And so that's the first place where I say, why are you drawing such a bright line between organized labor and the right to work? It just divides us further and further and further and further. Look, I'm not running for anything, as you know, but I posted something on Labor Day, too. And it made the rounds, and I was really glad that it did, because I told the story of a company that I work with called Groundworks. They fix foundations, they fix leaky basements, they encapsulate crawl spaces. Those guys standing there with me in that shot, there are 5,400 employees over there, Chris. Most of them never went to college. These are guys who are doing backbreaking, difficult work on your most valuable asset. This guy, Matt Malone, who runs this company, a year and a half ago in Virginia Beach, he made them all owners. Every one of them. 5,400 workers. There's no union anywhere near this thing. He made them owners. He put real skin in the game for them. They're treated just like the executives in this company. So, you had some great points with Beto and some good points with Bill. Where's the plan, right? Where's the plan for this? Wouldn't it be ironic if one of the things that we can do to get working people invested fully in the companies that employ them is to make them owners? Wouldn't it be crazy if somehow private equity had something to say about this whole conversation? Wouldn't shock me.
It would shock me. They're pigs. And, but that's why I love the story you told about that guy, because you can do good and do well. People do it all the time. Sometimes they wait too late. But I also loved and found very instructive what Matt told you about how many people he could give jobs to based on the workflow that he has, but he can't find the workers. For every 5 members of the artisan class that leave the workforce, they're only replaced by 2 right now. What did he tell you that if people wanted the jobs and wanted to learn on the job, how many could he hire?
Well, hundreds, literally hundreds right now.
Yeah.
I mean, he has, I think, 42 separate companies around the country, and they're all singing the same song. Now, this is a tough job. I mean, straight up, no kidding. It's backbreaking work. But the moral of the story
is a 6-figure job.
That it's a 6-figure gig. You start right on a path to 6 figures, right? You can go far with a high school diploma. Now, that story doesn't get told because for some reason, it's inconvenient to talk about the existence of opportunity. At the same time, we're talking about, there are no jobs. That's what I meant by a broad brush. This is way more nuanced than a politician or a 5-minute soundbite is going to be able to correct, which I know I'm on for at least 15. So we might be able to solve all these problems, Chris. But it's not going to be with bromides or platitudes or tropes. It's complicated. It's a complicated topic. But the reason I'm on your show tonight, aside from the fact that it's always fun, is that I think we're turning a corner in both a good way and a bad way. We're starting to see Gen Z get the message. They will be the tool belt generation. When they do the math with college and when they look at the opportunities that do exist, they're going to connect. They're going to connect the dots. But something else is going on, man, and it's scary. They mothballed or at least decommissioned 7 or 8 naval ships last week. Why? No skilled mariners. I'm working with a company called Blue Forge Alliance. They represent the American submarine industrial complex. They've got to build 4 nuclear-powered subs in the next 10 years, 2 Virginia-class, 2 Columbia-class. These things are longer than the Washington Monument is tall. They're complicated. The American submarine industrial base is 15,000 individual companies. They need to hire 100,000 tradespeople. Stat. They don't know where they are, and I don't know what to tell them. So if you got an alarm bell over there, do me a favor and ring it.
Listen, you're the alarm bell, and you are always welcome here to discuss this. It's one of the blessings of me being here at NewsNation. We do what we want to do when we want to do it. And I believe that trades is a big part of the legacy of anybody who wants to add to the American conversation. Mike Rowe, your foundation is 16 years in now. I wish it another 50. And we are always here to spread the word. Thank you for talking about what matters to the people who matter in America.
I'm at your disposal, Chris. Chris Cuomo, I should say. I understand it's a last name thing going on now. So
Cuomo, I look at your face, I get sick. 3 minutes and 45 seconds.
You don't call him Seymour.
Seymour, where did he get that? Anyway,
I don't know.
Bibi Netanyahu did torpedo a deal weeks ago that would have brought home 3 of the hostages who just died. Are we a deal away? Can you really have a ceasefire before they give back all of them? Do they even know where they are? What does someone who lived this issue expect from American leadership? What is he listening for in the debate? Next. What should Bibi do? Should he have taken that deal? Is there a deal that makes this end the way it should? What do people in Israel, what does the leadership expect to hear in this debate from the 2 people who want to lead our country? Let's ask someone who has lived it and knows the issues intimately. Eyal Hulata, former Israeli national security advisor to 2 Israeli prime ministers. It's good to see you, sir.
Good to be here again, Chris. Thanks for having me.
So without getting too deep into the internal political dynamic in Israel, because we got enough trouble over here with our own internal dynamic, do you believe that you are a deal away from peace?
Well, these are strong words. At this time, of course, unfortunately, both deal and definitely peace. We're not even close to peace, right? I mean, October 7, almost a year ago, was the most devastating day in Israel's history, and so many of our people were murdered. The Palestinians, unfortunately, over time have given a lot of opportunities to engage in things that could lead to peace and chose otherwise. They elected Hamas, the most terrorist organization, strongest terrorist organization in a region. And the outcome is what we see. So we're definitely not a deal away from peace. We could be a deal away of ceasefire that would allow to stabilize the situation a bit more, allow Israel to get the hostages back, all of them, by the way. We need to get them all back, and to start planning how Gaza could be reconstructed in a way that there could be some kind of future also for the Palestinians. And definitely we need arrangement that would make it secure for the Israelis to live side by side. All of this, I don't think, can happen if Hamas remains in control of Gaza. But since this war has been so long, we definitely need a ceasefire, and I think it is important, it is essential for us to get our hostages back.
Yeah, it's got to be the precondition. Two quick things. One, Trump says this is Harris and Biden's fault because they haven't been strong enough. Do you believe that he needs to articulate what his level of commitment will be to sustaining Israel's military if he is president again?
Well, I think it's important that it is clear Israel must remain a bipartisan issue. Israel, unfortunately, has become a part of the political debate. This is not good for Israel. I don't think this is good for the region. And I don't think this serves the true shared values and shared interests that the American public has with Israel. This is important to pass, and I hope that both of the candidates will continue to commit to Israel's security and to the ironclad commitment of the United States for that. President Biden said that, and of course the public in Israel expects both of those candidates to do that. They each will have their different way of doing that, but this is what I think should matter in this regard.
Do you believe that the Democrats represent more risk for Israel than the Republicans?
No, of course, this is a question that it's hard to ask an Israeli being here.
But I asked it.
Yeah, you did. Maybe it is more appropriate for me to say something different than this, and I think you will appreciate that. I want to say something about your monologue yesterday. I want to tell you, the people of Israel who have seen that, and this has been circulated quite extensively, are really touched by that. The fact that you chose on your primetime show for such a long item to talk about that and to make a very simple point. Our hostages have been assassinated by a terrorist organization. Israel shouldn't take blame for that. We shouldn't take blame for trying to rescue them, and we definitely shouldn't be ashamed on this. And I want to tell you, this has been different than others have said, and I want to thank you for that.
Well, listen,
and I dodged your bullet on your
question
question that was political.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a pass because you said something nice.
Well, thank you so much for that.
Mr. Hulata, thank you very much. We do the job, we fight the good fight, and that's not going to change.
Thanks,
thank
Chris.
you for being with us, and thank you as well. We'll be right back.